Cedillo, Chesbro, Conway, Cook, Davis, Dickinson, Donnelly, Ing, Fuhr, Fletcher, Fong, Fuentes, Furutani, Gaines, Galgiani, Garrick, Gatto, Gordon, Gurrell, Grove, Hagman, Halderman, Hall, Harkey, Hayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Weso, Huffman, Jeffries, Jones, Knight, Lara, Logue, Lowenthal, Ma, Mansour, Mendoza, Miller, Mitchell, Monning, Morrell, Nistande, Nilsson, Norby, Olson, Pan, Perea, V. Manuel Perez, Portantino, Silva, Skinner, Smythe, Solorio, Swanson, Torres, Valadeo, Wagner, Wykowski, Williams, Yamada, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, members, a quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papademos, to offer the day's prayer.
Good morning. Let us pray. Lord, the storms of life come to every person, but rather than trying to use our faith to control the circumstances, at times it is better to use our faith to bring us peace in the midst of the storm. That way, Lord, we acknowledge that you are bigger than the problem and that you are working behind the scenes. Guide us to find peace in the midst of the storms of life, Lord, for we trust your timing and your love for us. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Hagman as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Hagman.
Members, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber of Sacramento, Monday, August 15, 2011. Assembly met at 12 p.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, presiding Chief Clerk E. Dawson Wilson at the desk. Reading Kurt Timothy Moreland. Reading the roll was called. Deshajian, Alejo, Allen, Amiano, Atkins, Bell, Berry Hill, Block, Bloomfield, Bonilla, Bradford, Brownlee, Buchanan, Butler, Calderon, Campos, Carter, Cedillo, Chesbrough, Conway, Cook, Davis, Dickinson, Donnelly, Ing, Fear, Fletcher, Fong, Fuentes, Furutani, Galgiani, Garrett, Gatto, Gordon, Grove, Hagman, Halderman, Hall, Harkey, Hayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Waso, Huffman,
Mr.
Jeffries.
Calderon moves and Mr. Hagman seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 to allow Assembly Member Alan Ing Mendoza Skinner and Speaker John Perez to have guests and photographers on the floor.
Without objection.
Also, request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 to allow Assembly Members Amiano, Bronley, Ing, Fong, Hagman, Hill, Lowenthal, Nielsen, and Williams to speak on Adjourn in Memory.
Without objection.
Also, pursuant to Assembly Rule 79, and at the request of the author, I request unanimous consent to withdraw AB 606 from engrossing and enrolling and to hold the bill at the Assembly desk.
Without objection, clerk will note. Okay, we have some guests here today. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Fellow members, I ask for your attention. I want to welcome the members of the Eritrean community of California to our assembly floor. And we also have the Eritrean Americans from across the state seated in our gallery. Eritrea is a country located on the Horn of Africa, and the majority of Eritrean Americans came to the United States during the past 35 years. The Eritrean population of California has transcended barriers of language, tradition, and geography to become contributing members to our society and to build a better future for this generation and for generations to come. Those with me today work in education, medicine, business, and more. The Eritrean population of California has enriched our culture in many ways. Community groups throughout the state have sought to build collaborative relationships with their local communities to bring about cultural awareness and appreciation. The year 2011 marks the 20th anniversary of the independence of the state of Eritrea. This is a time in which Eritrean Americans are celebrating the meaning and value of which we possess here, which is liberty, freedom, and opportunity for all. I'm presenting this resolution today to recognize the significant contributions of these individuals of Eritrean ancestry living in California who represent the best of American spirit and hope for the future. Thank you, and please join me in welcoming them to the Assembly floor. Thank you.
Mr. Mendoza, your guess? Mr. Mendoza.
Madam Speaker, members, I would like to take an opportunity here to acknowledge Ruth Leon, who has served as my Polanco Fellow since January. The Polanco Fellowship is a wonderful opportunity for young, passionate Californians to understand the political system and the legislative process, and for elected officials to share the importance of policy and vision with the next generation of leaders. I'm grateful to have served with Ruth as my Polanco Fellow, since she's come from very humble beginnings, very humble background. She grew up and still her family lives in Arvin, California, small rural community right outside of Bakersfield, a community I know very well. I actually, my sister lives in Bakersfield. For an opportunity in my life, I lived in a little town called Lamont, and during those 6 or 7 months that I lived there in my teenage years, I actually attended Arvin High School, so I know Arvin very well, and we joke around how things have changed and how things have not changed, and I just want to thank Ruth Leon for doing such an outstanding job serving us here in the state legislature, and wish you all the best. Thank you again.
Okay, members, after we announce a few more guests, I'm going to start at the top of the concurrence file. If members are not here, I'm going to pass your file. Ms. Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I wanted to introduce Zoe Diamond, who is a UC Davis student here as a summer intern. She's provided invaluable assistance to our office this summer, and she has a very bright future, so I want to thank her and introduce her to our floor.
Okay, members, business on the daily file. Items on Concurrence, starting at the top. File items 1 through 4, pass and retain. File item 5, AB 398. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 398 by Assemblymember Morrell and others, an act relating to fire protection.
Mr. Morrell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to respectfully request your concurrence and Senate amendments to AB 398. This bill will allow the State Fire Marshal to accept certification by the Department of Defense as equivalent training to Firefighter 1, which is the basic certification required for a firefighter in the state of California. Amendments have been taken in the Senate which provide that the DoD certification be accompanied by a national accreditation approved by the State Fire Marshal, and it's the result of negotiations between the State Fire Marshal and the California firefighters. The State Fire Marshal, CAL FIRE, and the California firefighters have been part of an ongoing project to produce a nationwide accreditation, creating reciprocal not only between the DoD and California, but for all states and between all states that wish to participate. This measure has had bipartisan support and has received no votes. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I respectfully ask for your concurrence and Senate amendments. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 6, pass and retain. File item 7, AB 504. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 504 by Assemblymember Williams, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Williams.
We've made the commitment to pass on this until the LAO's analysis comes out.
Okay. File item 7, pass and retain. File item 8, AB 571. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 571 by Assemblymember Hagman and others, an act relating to corporations.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, members. I'm presenting AB 571, which is back for concurrence from Senate due to some clarifying language and technical amendments. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File items 9, 10, and 11 pass and retain. File item 12, AB 835. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 835 by Assemblymember Mitchell and others, an act relating to community colleges.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I am here today to present AB 835, which is back for concurrence. This bill calls for better coordination between career technical education programs, high schools, community colleges in order to maximize student participation. Amendments taken in the Senate clarify that the piece addressing geographical limitations applies only when a class is not offered in a student's local school. This bill has enjoyed bipartisan support and has no registered opposition. I would respectfully ask for your support today.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 13, pass and retain. File item 14, ACR 60. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 60 by Assemblymember Emmanuel Perez and others relative to Korean War Armistice Day.
Mr. Perez.
Good morning, Madam Speaker and members. As you may recall, last month you approved this resolution, ACR 60, celebrating the courageous contributions of those who fought in the Korean War and designating July 27, 2011 as Korean War Armistice Day. Since then, ACR 60 passed on the Senate floor with minor clarifying amendments and adding a principal co-author. The resolution is back before you on concurrence, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 15, ACR 33. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 33 by Assemblymember Harkey relative to the Officer Richard T. Stee Memorial Highway.
Ms. Harkey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. ACR 33 names a portion of Highway 5 in the city of San Clemente after police officer Richard T. Steed, who died in the line of duty, and he was the only San Clemente officer to have left our company this way. The highway sign has been paid for with donations by Officer Steed's friends and family, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 16, pass and retain. File item 17, AB 274. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 274 by Assemblymember Garrick, an act relating to unemployment insurance.
Mr. Garrick.
AB 274, my colleagues, is back on our floor after some technical amendments in the Senate. This bill has received no votes, and as a cost-neutral rating, I encourage an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 62, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 18, pass and retain. File item 19, AB 547. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 547 by Assemblymember Gatto, an act relating to voting.
Mr. Gatto.
Colleagues, AB 547 comes back on concurrence today. It's a simple measure that allows our law enforcement to crack down on those who abuse our elderly in the context of voting. It comes after conversations we've had with registrars in many counties about an increasing elder abuse in the context of voting. Back from concurrence with some minor changes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 20, AB 936. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 936 by Assemblymember Hueso, an act relating to redevelopment.
Mr. Hueso.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 936 requires more transparency regarding debt forgiveness by a public body and a redevelopment agency. Senate amendments require that prior to forgiving debt, a public body or redevelopment agency must first adopt a resolution stating its intention to forgive the repayment of a loan, advance indebted owed, or simply requiring a more than simply requiring a public hearing. In addition, the resolution will include a discussion of the impact of the debt forgiveness on the agency. The bill has no opposition and has received bipartisan support. I respectfully request your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Mr. Norby.
I rise in support of the bill. For too long, redevelopment agencies have been cash cows where public money has been divvied out to private interests with very little public return. This increases the restrictions on that, increases the transparency. If they're going to give away public money, at least they have to say why, how, and have some more accountability. So I urge a yes vote on this.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 60, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File items 21 and 22 pass and retain. File item 23, AB 1398. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1398 by Assemblymember Chesbro, an act relating to employment.
Mr. Chesbro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. AB 1398 is back for concurrence on Senate amendments. This bill extends a sunset provision of current law that permits 16 and 17-year-old students in Lake County to work up to 10 hours a day, but no more than 60 hours in a week during the peak harvest season for pears. Such employment, which coincides with the student summer break, must be approved by the Lake County Board of Education. This bill has no impact on general funds, has been on consent for its entire duration, but is back on concurrence today. I would ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Norby.
I strongly support this and would urge that this bill be extended to the entire state of California. What's good for Lake County should be good for the entire state. Certainly, labor laws protecting children are important. But I think a bigger challenge now is not overworked children, it's children that are bored. Children that are spending time at home wondering what to do, in front of the computer, in front of the television set, hanging out on the street. Allowing children to work 60 hours a day, 60 hours a week during the summer, non-school hours, gives these kids opportunities that they wouldn't normally have. And those same opportunities should be extended statewide as well as Lake County, but that's a good place to start.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, we're going to move to Assembly third reading. File items 30, 31, and 32 pass and retain. File item 33, ACR 67 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 67 with amendments by Assemblymember Furutani.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and members. I take up ACR 67 for the purpose of some amendments. The amendments simply make some historical clarifications, focus the intent of the resolution, and make grammatical corrections. I ask for your aye vote on the amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we will take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File item 34, pass temporarily. File item 35, pass and retain. Going to Senate third reading. File items 36 through 47, pass and retain. File item 48 on the amendments, SB 860. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 860 with amendments by Assemblymember Amiano.
Mr. Ramiano.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And here we are. Madam Speaker and members, the amendments delete a section due to late concerns that have been raised since SB 428 is the annual public safety omnibus bill, which is a consensus bill. The section is being removed, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File items 49 and 50 pass and retain. File item 51, SB 798 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 798 with amendments by Assemblymember Pan.
Dr. Pan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise for the purposes of amending SB 798 by Senator DeLeon. The amendments exempt paintball guns, and I urge your adoption of the amendments and ask that the bill be sent back to print and put back on file. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. File items 52 through 56, pass and retain. File item 57, SB 559. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 559 by Senator Padilla and others, an act relating to civil rights.
Ms. Atkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. On behalf of Senator Padilla, I'm presenting SB 559, the California Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. SB 559 adds genetic information to the existing list of protected classes provided in the UNRRA Civil Rights Act and the Fair Employment and Housing Act. While federal law addressing genetic discrimination was passed in 2008, its range of protections is incomplete for Californians. Genetic testing allows individuals to take steps to reduce the likelihood they will contract a particular disorder. Rapid advances in the technology promise significant medical progress, but they also give rise to potential discrimination based on one's genetic information. Such discrimination was evident in the 70s when we saw programs to screen and identify carriers of sickle cell anemia, a disease which afflicts African Americans. In the early 70s, state legislatures began mandating genetic screening of all African Americans for sickle cell anemia, leading to discrimination and unnecessary fear. The state of California has a compelling public interest in realizing the medical promise of genomics, but it also has a compelling public interest in relieving the fear of discrimination and in prohibiting its actual practice. SB 559 helps to ensure equal treatment under the law for all Californians. I respectfully request your aye vote on behalf of Senator Padilla.
Dr. Halderman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this measure. Genetic information is an immutable characteristic. Discrimination based on genetics is not different than discrimination based on other immutable characteristics, including color. For this reason, I would urge you to support this measure. It is simply good government. The other issue that I would like to bring forward is that currently science allows us testing of fetuses. It is my view, and those of my constituents, that discrimination against the preborn on the basis of genetic information would in fact constitute discrimination, and I would not support it based on that. I strongly urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 16. Measure passes. I was supposed to make a motion after file item 51, SB 798. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring file item 51, SB 798, De Leon, to the Committee on Public Safety. File items 58 through 60 pass and retain. File item 61, SB 33 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 33 with amendments by Assemblymember Wagner.
Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These are merely chaptering amendments as we get the bill back from the Senate to incorporate changes made over in the Senate to allow for a report of elder or dependent abuse to be made over the Internet through a confidential Internet reporting tool. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 66, no 0. Measure passes. Oh, these are on the amendments, sorry. These are on the amendments. Amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File items 62 through 64 pass and retain. File item 65, SB 177 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 177 with amendments by Assemblymember Williams.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise to present amendments on SB 177, authored by Senator Strickland. These amendments avoid chaptering out issues. Again, this is simply the issue of being able to have more hospice beds in certain counties. Respectfully ask your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. File items 66 through 68 pass and retain. File item 69, SB 885, at the request of the author. Please place file item 69, SB 885, submitting on the inactive file. File items. Members, we're going to go back to motions and resolutions. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I'm pleased to recognize this year's Assembly Science Fellows for their service to this chamber. Every year we host promising scientific minds in a fellowship program to bring their unique perspective to California public policy. We all recognize the enormous transformative potential of fields like biotechnology and green manufacturing and the implications they have for our state. And we know that California is the natural home for these industries. These fields of study have the potential to revolutionize the world in the same way that the information technology has been able to do so in the last 2 decades. As policymakers, our most urgent priority is to create the kinds of 21st century jobs that will restore health to California's economy, and an integral part of that effort will be ensuring that every California student has a strong grounding in science and the opportunity to attend one of our world-class universities so that they can receive the training and knowledge that they need to bring new innovation and technologies to our economy. The Science Fellows are an essential part of that effort to bring scientific and policy minds together in furtherance of that goal. It's my pleasure to recognize the 2011 Science Fellows. With us, we have Dr. Michael Bedard in the office of Assemblywoman Nancy Skinner. Dr. Bedard has most recently focused on developing plastic-based solar cells. We also have Dr. Tony Marino in the office of Assemblymember Jerry Hill. Dr. Marino's field of study is chemistry, and he's most recently worked on the regulatory aspect of green chemistry. And finally, we have Dr. Ken Spence in the office of Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher. Dr. Spence is an entomologist who specializes in sustainable pest removal. Each of these men have brought a vital body of knowledge and experience to the Assembly and have shared with us the insight on crucial policy issues ranging from energy to agriculture. We've been privileged to host these fellows, and on behalf of the entire body, I'd like to thank them for their incredible service to the people of California.
Okay, we're going to go back to file items 70 through 72, pass and retain. File item 73, SCR 6, clerk will read.
Senate concurrent resolution 6 by Senator Lowenthal relative to affordable in-home internet service.
Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Having access to the internet has quickly become a key to educational and economic success in the United States. For many working families and low-income families, however, the cost of access has been prohibitive. This resolution just simply encourages all state and local affordable housing lenders to promote free internet access to residents of affordable housing complexes. The costs are small and the benefits are huge. By providing easy access to the internet for low-income families, we can make affordable housing even more of the ladder to success. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, this measure is fiscal, therefore it requires a roll call vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 23. Measure passes. File items 74 through 77, pass and retain. File item 78, SB 325, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 325 by Senator Rubio, an act relating to railroads.
Mr. Perea.
Madam Speaker and members, it is my pleasure to present SB 325 by Senator Rubio, which would establish the Central California Railroad Authority to provide short-line rail freight service if the Surface Transportation Board abandons rail service. Already, a 30-mile segment of short-haul rail has been completely abandoned with track removed from Jovista in northern Kern County to Exeter in Tulare County. Once a rail line has been removed, it is unlikely the rail service would resume in the foreseeable future, leaving adjacent communities without viable rail service. The Surface Transportation Board provides service on existing short-line railroad operations in the counties of Fresno, Kern, Kings, Merced, and Tulare. The Central California Railroad Authority would use only local funding sources to purchase rail lines in the identified counties before further abandonments can take place. This is a common-sense measure. Short-haul rail lines are an essential part of the greater freight rail system in California. This bill is supported by all 5 local council of governments, as well as many affected counties, cities, school districts, and local companies in the Central Valley. SB 325 has received bipartisan support in all policy committees and on the Senate floor. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 49, noes 18. Measure passes. File item 79, passed temporarily. File item 80, SB 514. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 514 by Senator Simitian, an act relating to non-prescription drugs.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Today I'm here to present Senate Bill 514 that will prohibit the sale of products containing dextromethorphan, or DMX, to minors without prescription. Now you know why I'm not a pharmacist. DMX is a cough suppressant commonly found over-the-counter cold and cough medications. Some consumers, including minors, purchase and consume large quantities of DMX products in order to get high. When taken much higher dose, however, it causes hallucinations, loss of motor control, and dissociative out-of-body sensations similar to PCP. This problem is significant and widespread, and the California Poison Control System reports that DMX abuse calls for children under the age of 17 have increased 850% in the last 10 years, making DMX the most commonly reported abuse substance in this age group. Ingesting too much cold medicine can be just as hazardous as drinking too much alcohol or abusing other drugs. And it is cheap, easy, legal for children to obtain. This bill is supported by law enforcement, medical, and community groups. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Norby.
I rise in opposition to this bill, Madam Chair. This bill is opposed by business groups, including the California Grocers Association, because it adds another level of regulation and control on legitimate businesses that are selling legitimate products. Yes, these products can be abused, but just about everything you buy in a grocery store, certainly in a drugstore, can be abused if you take it, if you overdose on it, if you distill it down to some of its constituent parts. We can't simply piecemeal require IDs, require age restrictions, require clerks to keep certain products under lock and key simply because people in their imagination try to and sometimes succeed in abusing them. If that's the case, we'd have nanny state laws covering just about everything, which is where we're heading. And this is a nanny state law, and those of you that speak against those should oppose it. And those of you who care about your 17-year-old college student who's away and has a severe cold, goes down to Walgreens to buy a cold medicine because he's got to study all night for that test and finds out you're too young, you can't buy a cold medicine because some people get high off it and can abuse it. That's true of just about anything in a drugstore. How far will this go? This is too far. I urge a no vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Hagman, you may close.
Thank you. I thank the comments from my colleague. The fact is we do regulate medicines, we do regulate alcohol and tobacco and other things, try to, for the better good of the children and minors under 18. I respectfully ask you, I vote in this.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 20. Measure passes. File item 81, SB 585 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 585 with amendments by Assemblymember Perea.
Mr. Perea.
Madam Speaker and members, I rise for the purpose of amending file item 81, SB 585 by Senator Kehoe on Senate third reading. SB 585 would fully fund the commercial and government side of the California Solar Initiative program that has successfully installed over 900 megawatts of solar energy in our state since 2007. The amendments at the desk make technical changes to ensure that the California Public Utilities Commission expends the interest account of the CSI first and place a hard cap on the monies collected to backfill the program. I respectfully request that we adopt these amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File items 82 and 83 pass and retain. File item 84, SB 940 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 940 with amendments by Assemblymember Block.
Mr. Block.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 940, authored by the Senate Education Committee, corrects technical errors and oversights in the Education Code and makes non-controversial and conforming changes to various statutes related to higher education. The proposed amendments are technical in nature, relating to the provisions ensuring that students who have met the community college transfer degree requirements are granted transfer priority to CSU, consistent with the priorities outlined in the existing law. I respectfully ask for your support of these amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 85, pass and retain. File item 86, pass temporarily. File item 87, pass and retain. File item 88, SB 428. Clerk will read on the amendments.
Senate Bill 428 with amendments by Assemblymember Amiano.
Mr. Amiano.
Thank you. I'm ready now. This is the Senate Natural Resource and Water Committee Omnibus Bill. These amendments clarify the status of minerals and mineral rights under various public trust land management strategies and identify a successor agency to manage trust grants in the occasion that redevelopment agencies are dissolved, including San Francisco Redevelopment Agency, Treasure Island Development Authority, and Alameda Reuse and Redevelopment Authority. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on these amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 89, SCR 45 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate concurrent resolution 45 with amendments by Assemblymember Hall.
Mr. Hall.
Madam Speaker and members, amendments to SCR 45 are technical in nature and add co-authors. I respectfully request that the amendments be adopted, out to print and back on file.
Seeing no further questions or debate, without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 90, pass and retain. File item 91, SB 146 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 146 with amendments by Assemblymember Bill Berryhill.
Mr. Berryhill.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Members at the desk are amendments for SB 146 by Senator Wyland. These are technical triple joining amendments to fix several chaptering out provisions with some other bills. I respectfully ask your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 92, pass and retain. File item 93, SB 506 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 506 with amendments by Assemblymember Campos.
Ms. Campos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I present Senate Bill 506 today for minor and technical amendments. Sections of SB 506 are currently in conflict with AB 1044 Butler. These amendments correct the conflict. This bill also deletes the authorization for the state controller to adopt regulations to implement the bill. The Controller's Office has advised the Author's Office that they do not need this authorization. This bill has been on consent throughout the entire process, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote, as well as Senator Simitian.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 94, SB 10. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 10 by Senator Evans and others, and act relating to veterans and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Colonel Cook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 10 will allow a Veterans Home Allied Council to represent veterans living in a veterans home before the legislature. Under current law, the Veterans Homes Allied Council is established within individual veterans' home are recognized as an established advisory board by home administrators, but are barred from representing veterans' issues and interests directly to the legislature. This bill would provide our veterans, these veterans residing in veterans' homes, with a voice to advocate for or against current matters before the legislature by giving the Allied Council clear authority to speak on behalf of veterans' home members. SB 10 is the same bill as last year's AB 2156, if you guys have numerical memories, which passed the legislature unanimously but was vetoed by the former governor. I've been down that road. This bill has received unanimous support in the Senate and in all committees, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Nielsen.
Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, this is a very necessary and helpful bill. Another step, a continuum, more necessary now than before because we have many more veterans' homes in the state of California. Redding and Fresno shortly to be opening up. In the 80s, I carried the original bill creating the first Allied Council to advise the administration of the veterans' home at Yountville, which was then the only veterans' home in California. They have served a noble purpose over the years and been very useful to the administrators at the various veterans' homes that have come up since. This is simply another and very logical step. Those Allied councils do have opinions that ought to be heard in the high councils of government here, and this gives them that opportunity. The department resists it probably because they want to control and keep the administration on message. I argue that this does not diminish that power or authority at all, but it does give this legislature some direct access to the feelings of the members of the various Allied councils at the many veterans' homes in California.
Mr. Chesbrough.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in strong support of this legislation. During my 8 years in the state Senate, I represented Napa County and had the opportunity to work closely with the Allied Council at the Vets Home, and they were very successful and effective in partnership with their legislators in bringing about improvements and reforms, not only for the veterans at the home, although that took place, but also for veterans in general. They are a very important voice. We need to recognize them and to give them the opportunity to fully participate in advocating to state government. I urge your aye vote.
Mr. Allen.
Madam Speaker, I presently represent the veterans, the Yountville home. They need a voice. They're veterans. We shouldn't be treating them like children. I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 67, noes 1 on the urgency. Aye 67, noes 1 on the measure. Measure passes. File item 95, pass and retain. File item 96, SB 503. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 503 by Senator Vargas, an act relating to judges' retirement.
Mr. Wachowski.
Madam Speaker and members, SB 503 by Senator Vargas makes technical changes to the judges' retirement system. Present law allows court commissioners who become judges to purchase their former commissioner time in the judges' retirement system at the full actuarial cost of the purchase. The problem is the law requires them to either purchase all of the time or none of it, and that becomes quite expensive. SB 503 allows a former commissioner to purchase a portion of the prior service. The purchase must still be at the full actuarial cost, so there's no cost to the retirement system or to the state of California. Please note that at this time, it's actual time that's served by the commissioners. We're not talking about this air time. The bill also addresses unintended consequences in 2 other retirement bills in circumstances where a court commissioner position is converted to a judgeship and when the existing state employee, like a DA, is appointed to be a judge. SB 503 has no opposition. Evidently, nobody's ever voted no on this bill. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Looks like there's one no. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 2. Measure passes. File items 97 and 98. Clerk, pass and retain. File item 99, SB 339 on the amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 339 with amendments by Assemblymember Chesbro.
Mr. Chesbro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The amendments that are before the Assembly today are technical and addressing a chaptering out issue with another bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File items 100 and 101, pass and retain. File item 102, SB 495. On the amendments, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 495 with amendments by Assemblymember Bill Berryhill.
Mr. Berryhill.
Madam Speaker, members, I rise today to ask that we adopt these technical amendments to SB 495, Senator Fuller. SB 495 helps to provide some further clarity to our state's unclaimed property program to try to reunite property owners with their property as soon as possible. These amendments provide some consistency in the draft language between the various code sections in the bill, and they remove a section of the bill that was approved as part of this year's budget ask. I ask that the amendments be adopted and the bill go out to print and back on file.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we can take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. File item 103, pass and retain. File item 104, SB 211. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 211 by Senator Emerson and others, an act relating to air pollution.
Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 211 is an important bill because it codifies a compromise between automotive service providers and the Air Resources Board. This bill has the support of virtually every business affected by the regulation, including tire centers, new car dealers, and tire manufacturers and others. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. Okay, we're going to go back to a file item 59, SB 888. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 888 by Senator Liu and others, an act relating to crime.
Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I'd like to thank Senator Liu for this bill. SB 888 is a measure that places reasonable restrictions on protesting at funerals. The genesis of the bill came from the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision, Snyder versus Phelps, where the court ruled that the family of a deceased service member could not seek damages due to the picketing of an organization of people. In discussing how the court came to this decision, they reviewed the conduct of protesters who were on public land 1,000 feet away from the funeral and not audible or disruptive to the funeral service. SB 888 follows the guidance of the Supreme Court by requiring exactly what the protesters were doing 1,000 feet away on public land and no use of audible or disruptive noise. This bill provides no more and no less. Over 40 other states and federal governments place reasonable restrictions on protesting at funerals. This bill has received bipartisan support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 72, no 0. Measure passes. Okay, members, does anybody else have an item they wish to present today? Okay, we're on the consent calendar. We are at the second day consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the second day consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 303 by Senator Padilla, an act relating to food safety and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 73, no 0. On the urgency, ayes 73, no 0. On the measure.
Senate Bill 374.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 380.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 512.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 532.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 562.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 607.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 664.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 674.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Bill 711.
I-73 no zero.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 15.
I-73 no zero.
And Senate Bill 933.
I-73 no zero. The consent calendar is adopted. We're going to go to adjourn in memories. The following members were approved for an adjourn in memory today: Mr. Amiano, Ms. Brownlee, Mr. Eng, Mr. Fong, Mr. Hagman, Mr. Hill, Ms. Lowenthal, and Mr. Nielsen. Mr. Amiano.
Madam Speaker, members, I respectfully rise to adjourn in memory of Krista Gatlin from San Francisco. Krista is the mother of Assembly Public Safety Committee consultant Gabe Caswell, who many of you worked with. Those who had the pleasure of knowing Krista knew of the great woman that she was. She was warm, kind, and giving. When Krista's friends describe her, they talk about her great laugh and its ability to make those around her laugh as well. She was a very positive person, and despite her battle with cancer, she had the ability to make those around her feel that life is good. For 12 years, Krista worked at the Bentley School in Lafayette, where she was an English teacher and technology associate. Krista was there for everyone, and there was no one with bigger heart or spirit. She was also one of the biggest Giants fans and always wore a vintage 1950s Giants jacket during game days for good luck. Krista's passing is an immeasurable loss to her family, friends, students, school, and to the community. She was very much loved and will be fondly remembered and greatly missed. My thoughts and prayers are with her and her family at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise to adjourn in the memory of a good friend of mine, Millie Rosenstein, a longtime Santa Monica activist recognized for her work for the elderly and for renters' rights. Millie died Tuesday at the age of 96 from complications of pneumonia. Millie was the mother of former Santa Monica Mayor Paul Rosenstein and the widow of Herman Rosenstein, a Spanish Civil War veteran who later became an active democratic socialist. Herman used to say, if you do not participate in history, it's going to pass you by. In 2000, former Assemblywoman Sheila Kuehl recognized Millie as the 41st Assembly District's Woman of the Year. She has served on many local commissions, including as chairwoman of Santa Monica's Commission on Older Americans, on the city's Commission on the Status of Women, and the Social Services Commission. She served as president of the Santa Monica Democratic Club for 10 years and was active in Santa Monicans for renters' rights. Millie took democracy to heart and stands as a model for all Californians. She and her late husband moved from New York to Santa Monica in 1980, and she worked as a volunteer staff member for then State Assemblyman Tom Hayden. She also volunteered with Dr. Martin Luther King West Side Coalition and at KCRW, a public radio station that broadcasts from Santa Monica College. Millie's mind was sharp as a tack for 96 years. If you were an elected official that represented her in Santa Monica or in the county or in the state, she would continually challenge you to do more. There was always more to do, and Millie expected your focus, your attention, and your commitment to do more. Besides her son, Paul, Millie is survived by a daughter, Fran Alexander of Seattle. Please join me in extending our deepest condolences to Millie's children and to the entire community of Santa Monica.
Mr. Eng.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise as a point of personal privilege to ask you to join me in adjourning in the memory of a personal mentor and inspiration to me, Dr. Edwin Kuo, who passed away at the age of 95. There's a great question about this great man. How do you distinguish yourself when your wife is an Emmy-nominated actress who's appeared in Academy Award winning movies. How do you distinguish yourself if your son is a civil rights icon in Southern California, Stuart Quo, and your daughter is an incredible mother? Well, Dr. Edwin Quo was a self-made businessman. He came to this country after being a refugee not once, not twice, but 3 times in his life. He got his master's degree from Princeton Theological Seminary. He was a man of great faith and received his PhD from Columbia University. In the 1940s, members, he became dean of Jinling College, which was the first school in China to award bachelor's degrees to women. Dr. Quo returned to the United States and was involved in a number of nonprofit organizations. He was selected to serve on the LA County Grand Jury, which is an incredible honor and testament to his incredible sense of justice. On a personal note, I've known Dr. Quo for many years, and I'll never forget one instance when he came up to me and said, "Hey, Mike, I heard that you've just been elected to the city council. Someday you're going to be governor." And my eyes swelled with pride and my face turned red until I overheard him go to another city council member and say, "Hey, so-and-so, I think someday you're going to be the president of the United States." He was that kind of a mentor. He was a compassionate man and really dedicated to those that were less fortunate. His work has contributed greatly to the civil rights movement in Southern California because he was an inspiration to his son, Stuart Quo, and the Asian Pacific American Legal Center. He's survived by his children, Stuart Quo and Mary Ellen Hsu. He was extremely proud of his grandchildren, and I have here with me, it's a point of personal privilege, one of his grandchildren, Julia Hsu, who flew in from San Diego, and she's going to be a junior at University of California in Berkeley, and she asked me to join all of you in adjourning in the memory of an incredible man, Dr. Edwin Quo. Thank you.
Mr. Fong.
Members of the Assembly, it is with a heavy heart that I adjourn in the memory of Tim Snyder, a life lost far too early. Tim Snyder was just 16 years old when he tragically took his own life. Tim left behind his 3 brothers, a sister, his mother, his father, and countless friends and family. Tim touched the lives of thousands of people throughout his short life. This was evident when hundreds of people attended his candle vigil and his memorial service. The community lost not only an amazing young adult, but they lost a phenomenal musician. Not only was he a talented guitarist, but he had a soulful, rich voice for someone who was just 16 years old. Tim literally could play any musical instrument and make beautiful music flow from it. The original songs that he performed were all previously poems that he had written and published in his middle school's yearly literary magazine. Tim's musical talent was sought all over the school district. He performed in several musicals, talented shows, and all the time during lunch at his high school. Tim bought his guitar everywhere and would play it all the time. In 2009, Tim won the Santa Clara Unified School District Battle of the Band Music Rivals. Tim always had a smile on his face. Everyone described Tim as their best friend. He had a special way of making you feel like you were the only one in the room. Even though he was battling with his own issues, Tim always found the time to sit and listen to everyone else's problems. At such a young age, Tim encapsulated the essence of what all of us should strive to be, a kind and caring person who is always looking out for everyone. My thoughts go out to Tim's family and friends during this difficult time.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, today I rise and adjourn of Howard E. Finkelstein. He passed away July 27th this year in Banning while on vacation in Silent Valley with his wife of 39 years, Vicki Finkelstein. Born in 1931 in Detroit, Howard moved to California in 1951. He and his wife are longtime residents of Chino Hills. I was able to serve with his wife for over 15 plus years in the Kiwanis Club, and Howard is always the type to be working behind the scenes and being that labor we always need without getting needed any kind of recognition. He also played for 2 seasons for the Detroit Lions and also part of the auto racing scene back in the days. Howard is survived from his wife, his son, 3 daughters, 7 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren, and he will be missed dearly in the city of Chino Hills. Therefore, today I ask you, the Assembly adjourns in his memory. Thank you.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you for joining me in extending the honor of a memorial adjournment for a wonderful Long Beacher, Betty Seal. If you will allow me, I'll read the first few sentences of her obituary. It reads, "Refugees from Cambodia, Southeast Asia, and other impoverished regions, students attempting to learn English, homeless children seeking schooling, victims of natural disasters. During her life, Betty Seal reached out to them all. A lifelong resident of Long Beach, Betty died peacefully in her home after a period of fragile health. She was 86. Members, in 1943, Betty became the first woman student body president at Long Beach City College. She went on to become an enormously popular teacher, and in 1975 designed the district's English as a Second Language program. She was a powerful voice for immigrant children, and as our former superintendent put it, it was her view that immigrants would make Long Beach a better community. She was, of course, right, and Long Beach is a much better place because of her. Thank you.
Mr. Nielsen.
The Assembly, another fallen warrior I ask that we celebrate and acknowledge today. A young man from Williams, California, PFC Ruben Boy Lopez. He died August 4th with 4 other fellow soldiers in Kandahar province of Afghanistan. He was a member of the elite 10th Mountain Division and part of the 32nd Infantry Regiment combat team. An IED exploded, taking he and his fellows' lives. He was a pillar of the community, a wonderful family, a graduate of Williams High School. 300 people held a candlelight ceremony in that very small community to acknowledge their community son. He was the only child of Ruben Lopez Sr. and Gloria Estrada. He has a brother, also in the military, Sergeant Kelly Lopez, and a sister, Renee Silva, and a cousin, Stephen Jimenez, who grew up with him and was a best friend. They remember him as one who always wanted to serve. He aspired upon the completion of his military career to be a police officer and protect the public. May we adjourn in his memory and to celebrate his significant life.
And Mr. Fong.
I also rise today in the memory of Sunnyvale City Council member Ron Swiegels. Ron was a friend to all he met and had a real passion for helping others. He was a leader who was a go-getter when he saw an opportunity to make our community stronger and to give a voice to those who didn't have one. Ron was a caring man who had a long career of public service. He had a real passion for his community and had a soft spot specifically for the issues that affected Sunnyvale seniors. He served as both mayor and vice mayor of Sunnyvale. Ron was a member of the Sunnyvale Senior Advisory Committee, the League of California Cities, the Valley Transportation Authority Policy Advisory Committee, and the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency. In addition, Ron was a veteran of the U.S. Navy and submarine service. When Sunnyvale lost Ron, they lost a great leader, humanitarian, and friend, and a man who had a great humor, kindness, and passion for his community. Ron is survived by his loving wife, Gail, 5 children, 9 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Thank you for joining me in mourning in the loss of Sunnyvale Council member Ron Swiegels.
Thank you, members. Please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Session schedule is as follows: Friday, August 19th, no session, no check-in. Monday, August 22nd, session at 12 noon. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Mr. Portantino, for what purpose do you rise?
I rise to speak on condition of the file, Madam Speaker. I'd like to compliment those members who have embraced transparency and released their budgets today. I understand several members of this House.
We need a motion to adjourn and a second before we can speak on condition of the file.
Okay.
So we got a motion by Mr. Calderon and a second by Mr. Solorio.
schedule.
So Mr. Calderon moved, Mr. Solorio seconded that this House stands adjourned until Monday, August 22nd at 12 noon. Quorum call is lifted. So, Mr. Portantino, under the Speaker's discretion, it's at his discretion to allow a member to speak on condition of the file. I don't believe you have received permission to speak. This will take a motion. We'll just do a motion. Okay? We're going to take the majority of those present and voting to allow Mr. Portantino to speak on condition of the file. Oh. Okay. Sorry. It's the Speaker's discretion. The Speaker has not granted you permission to speak on the floor today, Mr. Portantino. Quorum call. Mr. Speaker is here. Mr. Speaker.
Had I known Mr. Portantino was making a request, I would have granted it. Let Mr. Portantino speak.
Okay, Mr. Portantino, you have 2 minutes to speak on condition of the file.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm sorry for wanting to exercise my right as a member of this body. I don't apologize for wanting to exercise my right as a member of this body. I rise to compliment those members of the Assembly who I believe have released their budgets and embraced transparency, because that is what we should be doing. We should be embracing transparency. I also look forward to seeing the Rules Committee action on Monday to refer H.R. 20 to this floor has been released.
Mr. Calderon, for what purpose do you rise?
I think on conditions of the file relates to the bills that are on file and the legislation coming before the House. And so I would request that Mr. Portantino confine himself to those issues.
Okay, Mr. Portantino, duly noted.
Seems to be a lot of concern to keep Mr. Portantino from speaking. I respectfully request that the Rules Committee take up H.R. 20 at its earliest convenience. That is a duly processed House resolution to change the rules to embrace transparency. I would also like to applaud the students at Stanford who have put on their website a very alarming degree of questions related to the Assembly's budgets. We need to get to the bottom of this, and I look forward to seeing H.R. 20 referred by the Rules Committee to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Portantino. Now we have a motion to adjourn on the floor. Any objection? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. We are adjourned until Monday, August 22nd at noon. Quorum call is lifted.
Spend a lot of time up here. SB 10, Halderman, no to no.